What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to JBuck Studios. We're breaking down Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Episode 6, the finale of this crazy show. And I'm not doing this by myself. We have the man from last week. He goes by 3 letters, NPA. What is going on, sir?
Not too much. Finally,
Ready?
this time have a mic that is on.
Yes. We have all the tech issues under control. We are
That's
no
right.
longer in the NPA Studio South. I am back home, unfortunately, in my basement. But anyways, yeah, we're going to be breaking down this episode. Obviously, a little bit of maybe some spoiler-free up front, but then we're going to be breaking it down, getting into the nitty-gritty, what we thought of everything, where certain things lead, post-credit scene, mid-credit scene, opening scenes, all sorts of scenes and stuff. Well, we got some people in the chat already jumping in here. What is going on, everyone? Again, give us your thoughts over in the chat, and if you're watching this on a replay, let us know all of your thoughts and potential theories down in the comments down below. But I guess, Nolan, do you want to just get into kind of our spoiler-free thoughts? Just a quick gloss over, and then we can dive into everything?
Yes. Spoiler-free thoughts. The word that comes to mind is messy.
Yeah?
I am still a huge fan of the show. I think they've done a lot of really great work, but this episode is very messy. Anticlimactic was the word that you had just said before we started on here, and I agree with that. Underwhelming. Without getting any plot points away, there's consequences aren't really realized in this episode like I think we wanted them to be. And that was kind of, while I was watching it, I was like, okay, but like, what's going to happen though? Like, I'm watching things happen, but I'm wondering what's going to happen. I'm not, I wasn't always enjoying what I was watching.
I absolutely agree. And the thing is, this episode didn't need to be 90 minutes. It didn't need to be whatever time it was. But when it popped up and it said 52 minutes, and I'm mentally thinking, okay, X amount for the credits and stuff, I'm like, you can't wrap up everything that you have in 45 minutes. And again, you could if you wrote it well and figured out some of these character plot points and whatnot. But that's the problem, I think, with this episode is just it was too little too late and not enough. Essentially. I tweeted out just before this, I thought this episode was very, very anticlimactic. I understand that there's some heartfelt moments that we'll get into later, but a lot of the story beats, I mean, there's a lot of threads, essentially. A lot of people are showing up in this episode, and
so messy.
You give some people some I mean, you have $10 to go around. You gave that guy $5, you gave that guy $2, and then it's like, hey, guys, we don't have enough money to pay the rest of you.
Right.
Bad analogy, but that's kind of how I felt, where it was just very uneven. That's almost what it was. It was uneven and anticlimactic for myself. I guess, do you have anything else spoiler-free before we just dive into it? I mean, some of the action was great, some of the CGI was great, but it's this,
but some of it was
certain...
not.
Yeah, that's the thing is, it's very uneven and messy and whatnot.
There's been a lot of ideas floating around that maybe... they had to do a lot of like reshoots or rewrites for this series, and I think this episode
was the
it.
key disclaimer of kind of like we didn't know what to do.
Yeah, I definitely think that this it suffered from some rewrites. I'm curious if we ever find out what it was going to be originally, what they did end up changing. I mean, I'm sure that everyone, like when they changed stuff, if they did, I'm sure that they all thought like, no, this is like a great direction. We're happy with the story. But I think they just forgot to either exclude some stuff that they had set up earlier, needed to pay out, but then they ended up cutting that storyline short. There's just too much messiness. That's the word I'm going to keep coming back to.
Well, I mean, kind of what you're hinting at is like, those characters and whatnot with those other 5 episodes before this, they just didn't get fleshed out, essentially. They're kind of like these empty husks of characters and groups and whatnot that kind of made it through. Anyways, those
when
are...
you thought that, in the last couple episodes, just when you thought like, oh, some of these are really picking up steam, this episode really let me down on more than one occasion, actually. So,
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Whew. Yeah. Anyway, I guess let's just get into the spoilers of this episode because, I mean, there isn't like this last episode last week that we broke down. There was kind of a lot of different through lines and stuff that we could focus on. This is kind of like, hey, everyone's coming together and everyone kind of has their own doing ons and whatnot. I mean, how episode 5 left off with Sam opening up the case. Obviously, we all assumed it was a new suit, and that's kind of what starts this episode off. I mean, we're in the GRC. The Flag Smashers have taken over the building, stopped the vote, capturing them, taking hostages and whatnot, and that's what sets this episode up. And then we get into the kind of the action. Like, what'd you think of that? Was it rushed? I think it was kind of messy in my eyes.
Yeah, super
very rushed as well, because we talked a little bit before this. What was the main agenda of the Flag Smashers? What did Carly really have in store for these people? Exactly. It's this emoji.
Clearly it's, they want to stop the vote from taking place at that date and time. But I just can't help but feel like, okay, suppose they stop the vote. I mean, they'll just come together again and vote on it later. Or suppose that, she pretty much on a dime turned her plan to just, all right, just kill them all.
Yep.
Again, I mean, they'll just select new senators and whatever. And these people are basically pawns in a chess game. You can kill them, and there's more pieces at play. This isn't the end all move. And maybe the plan is supposed to be kind of weak because she's a teenager, but the show keeps hammering in again and again that people all over the world agree with her and they're backing her. So, I mean, are you telling me that people all over the world are just in on this? This plan doesn't really make sense.
No,
the end goal of it doesn't really make sense.
Because what was the end goal?
I guess to stop the vote, because the vote was they were going to
relocate the refugees or whatever.
Yeah, they were going to vote on pushing out everyone who didn't disappear during the blip. And obviously, there's an issue with that. And I think that Sam has had the best approach to that issue out of any character in the entire show. Sam's the only one who's been reasonable about that issue.
Yep.
Everyone else is on pretty far extremes, and that was it. They just want to stop that vote. That's the extent of what we know about the Flag Smashers, and now they're all dead. So
yeah, spoilers, people. They're all dead. Well, that's the thing is, their main objective or whatever was to stop the vote. They stopped the vote. Then they put them all into hostages, where someone took off in a helicopter with them. 2 or 3 cars took off, and it was just kind of confusing because it's like, well, where are you taking them? Where are you going with these people? This is New York. You are not from New York, from what I've gathered. So good luck going wherever. That was my biggest problem. But also when we start diving even more into the GRC from their standpoint or whatever, they are voting to move like 2 million refugees apparently. And the GRC was created. What's that?
Sorry, go ahead. I didn't catch a number, but
I think it was, I don't know. It was a large amount of people, and the GRC was created after the blip and everything to kind of get things back into order. And that's what the dude at the end said. The head of the GRC was like, "What do we do if a family comes back and someone's living in their apartment?" Yeah. Guess what? I'm sorry, but you didn't show that at all in this show. You showed it a little bit.
Week.
Yes, we were. Absolutely. You showed it a little bit at the beginning about denying a bank loan. That's it. You didn't see any... I would expect millions of people on the streets being homeless. Billions. And the thing is, that's not... You can't just say that but not show it. That's my biggest problem, is that there was so much in this show, maybe not just the whole show, but this episode exclusively of... Okay, if there's millions of people out there, show it. Show how society broke down, because we had this talk. Yeah. That we had this talk off air for like an hour, and we just didn't understand how this world is put together as much as it is.
6 months after Endgame, 6 months after everyone returns, life is, for the most part, normal-ish looking. I mean... we were talking about this at length. We were probably going a little too into it, but Marvel wants to give us the impression that they're extremely detailed with these things. So I mean, I think it's fair to critique it. And like we were saying, okay, half the population disappeared 5 years ago. Guess what? The governments that have remained have seized all of their assets. They're gone. Houses, money, cars, gone. All of it. And for all of them, and for that next 5 years, production on everything like food, new housing, all that stuff, it's been cut in half at least. So everyone just comes back, right? And we don't see any like problems really with that. Besides the bank loan, right? We're told, like you said, we're kind of told about it, and it's hinted at, and we see Carly, and we see her little gang of ragamuffins, right? The flag smashers, and they're upset with the way the world is. They feel wronged, and rightfully so. But even still, we're not really shown like how bad it is. We see that they're in like a refugee camp, and they don't like to be called that, but we see that. But again, there's only like 50 people there. Like, it doesn't seem like it's a big issue, even though like it should be, right?
Yeah. And the thing is, you're even saying, you touched on it a little bit earlier, where the flag smashers apparently have all these millions or trillions of, I don't even know, followers and whatnot. And we see one or two people at the very end kind of say like, one world, one people, or whatever the term that they use is. And that's kind of the extent. I mean, aside from the cell phone messages in the previous episode, it doesn't feel like there's this huge uprising that we see. I mean, they have an app, so I guess maybe they have go to their Google user reviews and see how many people have reviewed their app. Apparently, people said that it was a very good one. According to what Bucky said.
Good enough. Yeah, good enough for Bucky and John just to hop on it. And use it.
Exactly. Okay, so clearly the flag smashers had no clue what the heck was going on.
Yeah.
But let's jump over, I guess, into kind of Bucky and Sam throughout this episode and whatnot.
The people the show were named after.
Yeah.
Although
Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So obviously, I mean, within the first like 5 minutes, basically, Sam and they both show up and they're doing their own thing. It's the episode's jumping back between the two of them. But I think Sam is the one that he first shows up. He has the shield. He has a brand new Wakandan suit.
Yep.
I'm assuming it's the whole suit. I mean, we kind of had this conversation of, is the whole suit vibranium? Is it just the wings?
Right.
Let's, for the sake of this conversation, just agree that the whole suit is vibranium.
Yes.
That's what I'm assuming.
Yeah.
So him showing up, I didn't like the look of the suit right off the bat. It did grow on me. It did grow on me a little bit throughout this episode, but I think the biggest problem is just the action around these characters is on the ground, hand-to-hand combat stuff, to me, again, felt very clunky, but then when we're going over to Sam and him doing his big helicopter chase and his wings and his now 2 red wings or whatever, it just felt very mushy to me. Like, it felt very apparent. That
funny,
it was CGI.
We've seen the series, like the very first episode has a pretty epic in-air fight sequence, and it looked great. So clearly they had the capability. Again, this episode must have been rushed or changed or something, because you're right. The CGI and effects in some of those aerial sequences, not really it. And yeah, personally, the design of the suit wasn't my favorite. There's just a lot of like white up top that... it just stood out a lot to me. It's just a personal preference. I assume that they wanted to emphasize the white because white often symbolizes purity, and it's showing Sam as pure of character. And I agree with that, and I think that was probably the right choice. Yeah, it just didn't look the best. There's a comment from Eval saying the wings were fresh as hell, and the wings in particular were cool, I will say. And
the way he used them too.
Yeah, it was really creative.
Where he was
dug him in the ground when he's fighting Carly.
Yes, the dig in the ground, and then also the dome over top of him. Like, I didn't have any problem with their functionality and stuff.
Nope.
I think, and not even the action. Like, the action I really enjoyed, but the thing is, I'm just like, I'm watching something that's not really happening. And again, it's movies, it's a TV show. Obviously, a dude's not flying with wings through a helicopter, but it just felt
all practical stunts.
It just felt so.
It was muddy.
Run it through the machine a couple more times.
Yeah. Give it the 2 pass in Premiere.
Yes, exactly. I just learned what the 2 pass is. You guys just do it, people. Just do it. So like I guess I didn't have any problem with the action and stuff like that. But again, it ties in with the non-plan essentially of the Flag Smashers of capture these people, don't let them vote, put them on a helicopter, put them in a truck, put them on a boat. I'm surprised we didn't get a boat and just get them out there, and then everyone goes off and tries to track them down and save them and whatnot. So Yeah, I don't know. I guess what are your other thoughts aside from just the action like of Sam throughout this episode?
I mean, Sam gets the spotlight of this episode for the
Mm-hmm.
majority of it, and rightfully so. Um, I really think that Sam or Anthony Mackie has done a fantastic job throughout this whole series. I think that he in this episode is Captain America. And I did like right off the bat, he's showing up and he's like, I'm Captain America. Like he's
Mm-hmm.
just owning it. That's who he is now. And I respect the hell out of that. That's awesome. And I also especially like that we get multiple moments of him just saving people, like that basic hero thing
Yep.
that sometimes movies like they forget to show you heroes just being heroes and saving people, and that's really important to see. I think like for example, one of my favorite sequences in Iron Man 3 is when the people are falling out of the plane, right? And,
Mm-hmm.
and Iron Man just has to save them all. It's a sequence you could have cut, but it's so nice just to see heroes being heroes. So that was really cool, and I really loved how they gave him time to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then he went after the fighting's done. He gets on the ground and he has that very public talk with those senators. He has his speech moment, his Captain America rallying the troops and standing for justice moment, and he did great. And the writing there was really really good. It's a bummer that it took you half an hour of basically dark CGI fight sequences to get to that point,
Yeah.
but that point was really really good, and it served narratively as a very good tie-in to Sam becoming Cap. And that's what this show is about. The problem is the show is called Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and the Winter Soldier part of it all was, I mean, Bucky is just deeply underserved
Very
throughout the
sidelined.
whole series. Yep,
Mm-hmm.
and then especially in this episode too, he's kind of just there helping out. He's basically just the sidekick. Which, I mean, I guess I don't have that much of an issue with it, but I really feel like they could have done more. His, I guess redemption with telling the old man about how he killed
Yep.
his son, that was good to see. I actually thought we weren't going to see it because the episode
No.
started off in the fight sequence. I was like, are they just going to ignore that?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad we saw it, but it felt out of place. Just coming at the very end of the series. Yeah, they should have spent some more time with him. And also, Mr. I-100 just asked. He said I was confused on John Walker teaming up with Bucky to catch the other Flag Smashers. We got to talk about John Walker
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just how disappointing that all was.
Yeah, a
Right?
quick aside I'm going to add on top of the Sam stuff, like basically
Yeah.
everything you said, like I really enjoyed how he basically went down and used his kind of negotiation skills on these politicians who clearly did not see that there was other options out there. And again, it's not like he knew everything, but he's like, let's talk about this. There's our
Yeah.
options out
There's
there
a
for people.
conversation to be had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the scene where he's kind of going against Carly was interesting because he's trying not to fight or anything, but also it felt very kind of like goofy and whatnot because, again, Carly's character, the Flag Smashers, they're so blinded and jaded and just irrational where they're just going and following and do whatever because, again, she's trying to fight this get this better world, but then instantly pulls a gun on him. So it was very confusing. But one other thing is towards the end with Sam and Isaiah, I think all of their interactions, especially the very end of being like, now the world knows your history. You
that
will
was
not
nice.
be forgotten.
That was beautiful.
All of that was the shining light of this episode because I'm like, is this all going to be just trash fire, garbage truck going down the road?
Yeah.
That part really redeemed this episode. I wouldn't say redeemed it, but it was the shining light in this otherwise dark CGI googly gop essentially for myself.
Right. Yeah. So John Walker.
Yeah.
And we can definitely come back to Isaiah Bradley because, again, standout moments of the episode all go to having him on screen. And Reaction Live 21 even commented just now, the thing I'm afraid of is, John Walker, he chose to save people, right? And Reaction Live saying he won me over by doing that. I don't think that that's the right move for that kind of a character.
When he saved that truck, let alone just showing up and fighting alongside them. It all just felt weird.
Very tonally dissonant from what they had been doing with his character before. When in the end of episode 5, that dude is unhinged. Like
Yes.
he is going to kill people.
Yes.
And then in this episode, he basically gets his ass handed to him a little bit, and then has like a mental like, oh, I gotta do the right thing, and then does the right thing.
I did like how they pretty much demolished his shield instantly.
Instantly, yeah.
Because that thing's
We
made
were
of
talking about that.
metal. Come on.
Scrap metal. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really didn't like that. John Walker as a character, to me, is the embodiment of white privilege. I kind of mentioned
Until
that
this
last week.
episode.
And until this episode, they totally dropped it. It's gone. And so all the nuance of that character is gone now. He's just the guy who decided to do the right thing at the last minute. And I think a lot of people are going to find that to be a redeeming quality in him. And I don't think, as a commentary on what's going on in the world, I don't think that he's a character who should have been redeemed so easily. Like, it's not that he's not redeemable, because he's not just some evil racist dude. Like, that's not who John Walker ever was, right? But it's about having to earn it and do the work and be a better person, that he just in a split second decides, oh, I'm a better person now. And everyone's just fine with it. And
Yeah.
also, how the government took away his title, why did he still have the suit?
I don't know. I mean, I guess if you're on a movie set, you can take the clothing home. So I guess I'm assuming that's what he did, or had a spare suit at home. I mean, again, a lot of that character was a little confusing because he just shows up walking down. Like, it felt like a Western, like someone comes into town just walking down the street. And that character, I mean, he showed up, and everyone kind of at that moment kind of had this unspoken thing of, we're all going against the Flag Smashers. But even though he did have beef with Sam and Bucky, when he starts to save that truck from falling, that's when I was very confused, because I'm like, well, you just completely switched what this character has really shown in the last 2 to 3 episodes. Again, he is fighting for good. Like, I think he was by the book and then got really twisted and whatnot, but also, like you're saying, he embodied all of this stuff that just kind of felt like they were like, he's okay.
Yeah.
He's okay.
Yeah, he's not so bad. No,
and the thing,
it doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. You see him have the thought process. Should I go after Carly or should I help the truck? And I was watching it and I was like, oh, this is kind of a big moment for him, because he's going to go after Carly, and this is going to cement him as like the anti-Cap. Like, he will become a U.S. agent in this way.
Yep.
Who, U.S. agent kind of toes the line between good and bad a lot, and I think that's where they should have gone with this. He should have gone after Carly. He should have given into that, spiteful nature of him. And no, just decides to be a hero. And I mean, good for him. It puts a nice little bow on it narratively, but why, man?
Exactly. It's again, it's so strange, and like you're saying, it would have been a great turn or illustration, visualization, essentially, of him finally becoming this U.S. agent type character, rather than the goofy scene of, hey, hun, are those pants fitting all right in there? What'd you think of that?
That was stupid, man. We got Elaine from Seinfeld in here playing some like behind the scenes big character,
Lady Hydra, I believe it is.
Yeah, and like I know a fair amount about the comics, and from what I understand, she's not a big character. Like, they're basically repurposing a relatively unknown character to do something new in the MCU, and that's fine. But I don't care about her. She's trying to be like the kind of charming but maniacal villain type, and I don't know. I mean, it's basically a mirror of the whole Sharon Carter being the power broker thing, which we called last week, by the way. Which
we'll have to get in that in a hot second, because I have. Oof.
But basically, Valentina, I can't think.
Yeah, Valentine de Fuego or something. I don't know.
The Fountain or whatever. Fontaine.
Fontaine.
Yeah, Elaine was in there. Basically, her plot that she's setting up with U.S. Agent and the plot that Sharon Carter is setting up, they're the same plot. It's the same, like, we're infiltrating the inside, and we have agents on the inside. It's like, okay.
Well, the thing is, it's just
Winter
so
Soldier
strange
2.0,
because she is, again, in the comics, and what we've gathered, I guess, is she's supposed to be a bad person. Again, it almost looks like she's just doing something on her own, but
Yeah.
with the turn of John Walker being good at the end of this episode and him just trying this suit on, which is clearly an evil looking suit, him and his wife are like, thanks for the suit.
Yeah. Yeah, like I don't. Again, John Walker is a decorated military veteran who, I have a military family, so again, I really like John Walker's character. I liked what they had done up until this episode with him and the things that he represented. For him to just be like, yeah, thanks, random lady who came into my life at a convenient time. I'll do whatever you say. Like,
Yeah.
that's not how a soldier follows
No.
orders or trusts people. I mean, come on.
Exactly. And right here, Mr. I-100 was saying, I was expecting a Dark Avengers or
Yeah.
Thunderbolt setup. And that's the thing, is with him getting that suit and them mentioning the raft and whatnot, I thought that was where it was going to go. And I feel like things... Again, maybe that's not even an idea that they had, and us comic book fans, us making theories, have just read way too much into this stuff. But it just never felt right for his character with that weird... Val came out of nowhere, didn't really do anything last episode, and then same with this one was like, hey, here's some new clothes. That's about it.
Yeah, yeah. I even like how he commented, is like, oh, it's the same, but black.
Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, I could wrote better line than that.
Yeah. We didn't mention the standout line from the whole episode clearly was, I thought Captain America was on the moon. That was funny. That was pretty good.
The one that worked for me was when Sam was walking before he started talking with the politicians. They're like, Captain America. No, it's Falcon. Captain Falcon? And I'm like, Falcon Punch! So we've covered
Nintendo
quite a bit.
is suing.
Oh yeah, copyright infringement, people. We've covered quite a bit, but we got to talk about Sharon and this
Sharon
power
Carter.
broker twist that we all saw coming.
That was
quite
pretty
a ways
obvious.
away.
I don't know. It's almost like I don't care about
Exactly.
it. Like she's not. I think she's a great actress. I think she was an interesting character, but now there's just so much happening, so many plot threads going on that I'm just like, oh, you're still here. Also, I wanted to mention, when she showed up in the episode, Sam was like, I called in backup, and then she's right there, and then he's like, oh, is that Sharon? And I don't know if I just am stupid, but I thought he had meant I called in backup. Oh, also, is that Sharon? So I was like waiting for the rest of the backup. Like I thought Rhodey was gonna pop in,
Someone.
right? And also, like, why wouldn't Rhodey have shown up to this really big event? I don't know. We can talk about that kind of stuff.
Not only
all day,
that, but the fact that
like, where's Peter Parker? New York is under attack. Like,
Exactly. And the thing is, not only all of what you just said, but she was said to not be able to make it to the country. She can't be here. And then even after all of their exchange, all of the, dealings on of shooting and getting shot and revealing that she's the power broker, even though Mr.
Kicky
dude
McKickface.
should have already known that.
who also she just wasted, and he never like wrapped up.
There
his
was
fight with
no
Falcon.
reason for him to be there.
Just
they were
dumb.
like, hey, you were in
Yeah.
the first episode. You want to come back for this final episode?
He literally only showed up, like the only purpose he served there was to shoot the smoke grenades into that like construction
Which
site.
didn't do anything.
All it did was force them underground so that they could start killing each other without the public seeing. That's it. That's all
Yeah.
the purpose. Kicky McKickface even sure. So that's his
but-
new canon name. By the
Yeah,
way.
that's his. Everyone, that's his canon. Kicky
Yeah.
McKickface.
Kicky F in the chat for Kicky McKickface.
But Sharon then at the end was like, or Sam said to her, I'll pull some strings and get you pardoned. And then obviously we see that. We can talk about that post-credit scene a little bit later. But yeah, it was just like Sharon was just there. And again, someone in the chat said it was kind of cringe. It did feel like that, where the lines between her was like, oh, you're the power broker. You owe me 4 times as much money. And then the whole Carly situation. I don't know if it was supposed to be a huge plot point, but it was very much like, okay, cool.
Yeah. It's like, oh, who could have seen that coming? I don't know. I mean, they spoiled the reveal last episode by having her hire Kicky McKickface.
Yeah.
I mean, that gave it away. You're like, oh, she's a power broker.
Man, I was really...
Like, I really thought the power broker was going to be like a big, powerful dude that maybe they weren't going to give this person's identity away even in this series. that
What-
it would have carried over.
What I thought could have worked, and again, this is going from Sharon into the post-credit scene or mid-credit scene a little bit. We see her getting pardoned, essentially, in front of
Yeah.
the government. Hey, here's your job back. I thought when she would leave the courthouse, someone would be like, hey, I pulled some strings for you. And then that is who the true power broker is. Again,
Right.
it didn't work that way. But what do you think of how'd you think of that end with Sharon there, essentially being pardoned? Which we saw kind of a similar situation with John Walker earlier, where they didn't want any of that. With her though, she's pardoned, and now she works back in her Agent Carter position, and she gets a call and says, "Hey, we have maybe not the super soldier serum, but we have weapons and we have everything and government secrets." We have something for everyone. So
When I was wondering if that line in particular was maybe going to set up armor wars or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just conjecture right there. But I guess what I can't get behind is like Sharon in particular being the power broker, wanting to have like an army of super soldiers. Like she was like tight with Steve.
yeah,
Like they were really close. And like for her to just like flip on a dime, and it's said it's because her country like abandons her, after Civil War. She's labeled a criminal, and she flees, and we find out she flees to Madripoor, and like all that tracks. But then you see her get that pardon, and you start to wonder, is it like, oh, did you not come back like to get your pardon out of choice? Like, did you actually just liked your life in Madripoor better? As like, I think she just liked her life being a criminal, didn't want to come back. And so when they show up, when they run into her in episode 3, she's kind of standoffish about the whole like going back to the back home kind of thing. And I mean, that's why I don't think she even wanted to. I don't think it mattered. And I think that it devalues her character, because in episode 3 you're thinking, oh man, like the government wronged her. It did this terrible thing to her, and now she has to suffer the consequence. She has to live in this terrible place. And then you find out that she just like, to me, it seems like she just chose not to go back because now she was rich and powerful. And I'm just like, that's not as satisfying to me. It'd be more interesting if if in this scene she decided to come back and then was like, you know what, I'm gonna go and work for Shield again, and I'm gonna take them down from the inside because of what they did to me. Like a revenge plot would have made more sense. I don't know.
I mean, that makes a lot more sense. I'm wondering if it was like almost implied that is her motivations, because I think that when she got back, when they said like Agent Carter, she kind of had a little smirk, and I'm wondering if she purposely came back to be pardoned, to get into this and have access to all of these weapons and stuff, to make more money and whatnot.
Yeah. But I get, like, why make her character just motivated by power and money? Even Carly like points that out. She's like, this isn't what matters. And I think maybe that's why I just don't care about her character right now, is because I agree that that's not what matters. Like power and money don't interest me in my superheroes right now, because the show for so long has been talking about more important things.
Well, I mean, just taking all of these, almost all the characters that we've talked about in this episode, it was just, they didn't have fleshed out meanings. Like, what was the point of everything? Like, what was their true end goal, their motivations to get through this? And that's the problem, is I think that we're trying to almost sit here and make a lot of assumptions, kind of.
Yeah, well, and you're forced to. And again, I think people will be sometimes quick to say, especially with these Marvel properties, like, oh, you're reading into it too much. But I'll combat that by saying, like, Marvel has gone out of its way to show us that, like, oh, look how detail oriented are. Look how fleshed out everything is. So I think it's fair to critique it harshly when they're not. And you're absolutely right. The only character who feels fleshed out to me by the end of this series is Sam Wilson, and that's it. And like even like his sister Sarah, she's just there now. Like she's not doing anything. She has no through line, and I mean that can be okay, but it's just underwhelming. And then you have that with literally every other character in the show, even Bucky. Like, what's Bucky gonna do now?
Honestly, I mean, it's this weird thing where almost the sister was given more of kind of a story, because again, she kind of had episodes 1, 2, and I think a little bit of 3, if I remember correctly, of kind of being like, we're gonna lose the house or the boat and this and that, and we're
she had
really
like a
struggling.
real problem.
Yeah. And Bucky, I know that he was dealing with PTSD and whatnot, but we got that in episodes 1 and maybe half of 2.
And 6.
Yeah, and then 6 is him finishing it, which again, going back to previously what we said, was that was nice to see him finishing it out and finishing his book, and potentially that being a symbol of him being his old self, a person again, no longer carrying this grief and this or not doubt, but like, this trauma along with him. Maybe him feeling more like a complete person.
And it's interesting you say grief, because Kyle Rhodes just commented in the chat that WandaVision was way better, and that whole show is about grief. And in that regard, Kyle's absolutely right, because that show is about grief and trauma, and the way that it handled that topic was meaningful and intentional, and it was excellent. The way that this show handled grief was, Bucky and Sam have a pretty good heart to heart, and I'm not bagging on it. It was a good little talk in episode 5 that they had. And now Bucky's just done. He's okay. Like, that's not. I don't know. And also, for one of your titular characters to basically his whole like character arc took place in the span of maybe 40 minutes. Cool. Like,
yeah. No,
I don't understand why he was half the show when he took up less space than one entire episode of the show. I feel bad. I mean, Sebastian Stan is such a good actor, and he's great in this role. Their on-screen chemistry between Sam and Bucky, I have loved it the whole time.
Episode 5 was the highlight for myself, where they're just fixing up a boat.
Yeah, that was excellent. And even in the cringiest stuff, like in episode 2, I know a good amount of folks didn't like all like the slapstick back and forth that they had going. I was a huge fan of it the whole time. I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was great. But yeah, and we don't even get any of that in this episode.
No, exactly.
Yeah,
one thing I will touch on that we haven't really talked about is like, Zemo's whole plan was to stop the super soldiers. He doesn't want them. He wants to get rid of them.
He hates them.
And the very end of this episode, we see the 4 super soldiers get into caravan essentially to go to the raft, and then they all explode.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of people, I myself was wondering who this old guy that exploded. It's the butler from episode 3 when they're going on the plane and everything like that to Madripoor. Maybe it was
Zemo's
episode
guy.
4.
Okay.
Yep,
okay.
That's who that old guy was. So anyone out there who's confused, the old guy, he's not some random new character we haven't seen.
That actually makes me more angry. I figured that he was one of Elaine's Goonies.
Oh, no.
That made more sense to me, because how would Zemo's butler know where they were or what was going...
See, okay, I thought the same thing was, who is this guy working for? But when Zemo's listening to the radio and it says 4 Flag Smashers, blew up or whatever, he smiles and he knows that his plan went through. So that's the old dude. Someone in the comments, if I'm completely wrong, tell me I'm wrong and tell me to get a real job. But that's who I'm pretty sure it was.
No, that sounds right. You're right.
I guess
that
rounding
just
out,
makes me even more mad about it, though.
Yeah, exactly. It was just kind of like, well, how'd he know to be there at that time? Rig up that
here's
certain
one other
machine.
Thing. The end of episode 5, Sam is at home. Bucky is who knows where, and that's when like this whole thing like goes off in New York. And then by the time that they all traveled to New York, nothing's happened yet. Like.
Well, they had to wait for him.
Yeah, the stakes feel unbelievably low because Carly literally waits until she sees Sam flying by, and she's like, "Okay, go now." It's like, why didn't you go 3 hours ago when he was flying there? How did Sharon get there? She's in Madripoor, wherever the frick that is. It's not close to New York.
I mean, customs alone would have been awful.
I mean, do they have light speed engines on Earth now? Is that easily accessible?
I mean, again,
people?
it ties in with the problems that we kind of had up front of just messy. I mean, now I'm going to say rushed. Like, a lot of it just felt conveniently rushed to fit the plot. Because, again, when we start breaking things down, okay, how did Sharon get there? Did she know beforehand to get there? Did Mr. Kicky McKickface know to tell her to show up?
Yeah.
Again, it just overall, man, the more and more we're talking about it.
How did John Walker find them out in the streets? They weren't close to the building at that point. Why wasn't John Walker arrested? He had been relieved of duty, and then he was seen by everyone acting as a combatant. I mean, if you want to look at some more white privilege.
Yeah.
I like none of it made sense, I guess. and that's really disappointing. I could probably talk for hours
Well,
about this. Now,
and the
like,
thing
now
is,
that
I
we're
wrote
talking about it
down
more.
this episode was 52 minutes. Again, exclude the credits or whatever. I wrote down at 30 minutes when Sam flies off to be like, "Oh, there's a flag smasher left in the river." It feels like you cut the episode right there. It feels like a climactic, like the hero shot flies into the camera, fade to black, credits roll. And then it goes on for another 20 minutes. But the thing is, this last 20 minutes felt like vignettes of credit scenes almost.
Yeah.
Of like,
Yes. Yeah.
okay,
They all felt like post-credit scenes.
yes.
Every single one of them.
Dude.
It's because the pacing was so bad throughout this whole show, and I liked episode 5 a lot, but I critiqued the pacing a lot last week. The pacing has been bad pretty much the whole time, and like they have to wrap up all these plot threads, but they already got through the main like action finale, so you have like 20-ish minutes of just post-credit scenes basically. Like, and of course, like, the Isaiah Bradley stuff was well acted, great dialogue, well handled. The messaging was good, and obviously having the memorial. Reaction Life feels the same.
Yep.
Having that memorial added for Isaiah Bradley into that museum, that was a beautiful moment. That was amazing, and I'm so glad that they did that. That was the only plot thread to me that the way they tied that up felt good. And it felt right, and it felt like, wow, look at how Sam has grown as a character. He went from the first episode to not even picking up the shield and wanting to donate it to the museum to, at the last episode, he's like, no, screw you guys, I'm Captain America. Also, you're going to add this whole wing to this museum because y'all covered up history and you've been disgracing Isaiah Bradley's good name. That was the only one worthwhile. Again, I'm really glad we got to see Bucky's thing, but it felt really out of place. It was the pacing was terrible. I mean, I would have rather they made episode 5, another 5-10 minutes longer to put it in that episode. It would have felt better. I don't know, man.
I
a lot
absolutely,
of disappointing stuff there.
I agree where, that last like 15, 20 minutes does feel like a bunch of kind of like, oh yeah, we need to tie up this person. We need to tie up this person.
Yeah.
The Isaiah Bradley's by far the best because it's not only him and Sam having a conversation with the young kid where he's going to be looking up to that now.
He might become Patriot.
And again, just setting up those
cool.
pieces right there. And it also helps that like he was talked to multiple times throughout this season in episode 5 and all the way back in I think 2 or 3 as well. So he had that aspect of the story of this series was focused on where it should have been. The rest of it just kind of feels like, oh, well, let's sprinkle a little here, let's sprinkle a little there, and it just didn't flesh out. Where the Sharon Carter stuff didn't work for me, the Flag Smashers didn't work for me, especially like now thinking about the Flag Smashers and that doctor that was in those shipping crates. Like none of this even feels like it was a cohesive thing. Where again, the whole the whole rumor mill is that a lot of this had to kind of be switched up because of the real events in real life and everything like that, which
it has to be related.
It kind of does feel like that is the
When
case.
I remember last year when they said that it had been delayed because of like filming difficulties with the pandemic and everything. And then I saw episode 3 where they're in a nightclub scene dancing. And I'm like, yeah, so that was bullshit. It's like, clearly it's not because of the pandemic that filming was delayed. I think they had to recut and re-edit a lot of stuff, which we've seen a lot of in the early episodes. And I assume that a lot of that stuff just got cut out of later episodes. I'm actually willing to bet that this series would have been 7 or 8 episodes long.
Yeah.
And they just had to cut so much stuff.
Because again, just this last episode, I know you felt this way, but it just felt like you can't finish all this in this 52 minutes.
Yeah, some stuff just happens and then it's over. And I mean, we can talk quickly about Carly. She is shown to us as a sympathetic villain who our hero even agrees with in messaging, but not in delivery. Which is always kind of a flawed approach in movies. It's kind of like a cop-out to me, but doesn't matter that much. Carly is shown to be a sympathetic villain, but then in the last episode, she just doubles down on like murdering people and then doesn't learn her lesson at all, has no comeuppance at all, and just dies. And I'm like, First of all, Steve Rogers in Winter Soldier took like 3 bullets in the back and didn't die. So I find it a little strange that she died. I mean, I guess it was like 2 to the chest. Who knows? But that aside, I was just really disappointed by that. I mean, she doesn't change. She has no arc. She has no even profound impact on the main characters because, I mean, right after Sam Wilson gives that speech to the senators, he confronts Sharon and Bucky again, and they're kind of like smiling, and they're like, all right, get out of here. You know, he doesn't even like lambast her for murdering a teenager. Like Sharon straight up just killed that girl. And yeah, I know she was about to pull the trigger, but we have to assume that his suit is vibranium. There's no way he was in danger there. I don't know. I mean, all of that was...
You're absolutely right, where...
What a waste of a character.
It just felt like not only her character, but the Flag Smashers, their motivation and everything like
None
that.
of it made sense.
Especially this episode where, again, it just felt so convenient, where you're like, okay, wait. Okay, he's here. Let's start our plan. Wait. Okay, John Walker we broke his shield. Let's move this crate thing and keep going. It just...
I was wrong because I, like, last week, or I guess up till now, I was hoping that, like, I knew that the Flag Smashers were really underdeveloped. I was assuming that they were just going to leave it that way because they were using them as a means to an end to get John Walker at odds with Bucky and Sam. Like, it was just a plot device, really, to get those two to clash heads. But that's thrown out the window almost immediately in this episode. John Walker shows up and starts helping.
Nope. Absolutely. I'm glad we are on the same page with this. The one last thing I will say is, what did you think of that final text screen of Captain America and the Winter Soldier? Did you like it or not?
I don't even know if I remember what it was.
Basically, you know how every episode opens and it's black background, white text, and it says Falcon, Winter Soldier. This time it ended and said Captain America and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah, I think that it was okay, but I don't know why we're calling Bucky the Winter Soldier still. I mean, if Falcon's going to change his name to Captain America, as he should, why didn't they change Bucky to White Wolf or give him some other identity to fall into? Because he's clearly not the Winter Soldier now. I mean, this show was about him putting that down.
I'm glad you brought that up because, again, I'm like, oh, I like that. I like that ending. But now that you're pointing that out where, he isn't the Winter Soldier. You could have said Captain America in Metal Arm or Captain America in White Wolf or
just
Captain America and a young
James
Luke
Barnes.
Skywalker, you know?
Even. I mean, they could have done literally anything. It should have been actually Rey Skywalker.
Yes. Who are you?
Just tie together all the Disney stuff.
Yeah, a few people in the chat are also saying, it should have changed it to White Wolf. So, again, I think that we're probably not going to be alone with this one, where a lot of people are going to kind of feel the same way, where it's a little inconsistent there, where obviously, I mean, okay, again, go back to exactly what you said. The show is Falcon, Winter Soldier. No, it's Falcon. It's Falcon show. Winter Soldier is just along for the ride. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, they could have called it any other name that only dealt with the Falcon, and no one would have complained about that. They would have been like, oh, Bucky's just in the show about the Falcon.
I guess before we wrap this up, Nolan, you got any final thoughts, anything we missed, I guess, or any theories potentially of where this show kind of set things up going for the future?
I did want to address, Kyle Rhodes had a comment there about this suit, Captain America's new suit not being vibranium. He says that they have nanotech, they have Iron Man suits, and he's wearing a Halloween costume. That's just funny because I also don't think that the costume looks all that great. They could have improved it, but that being said, I do think it's got to be vibranium. It was made for him by Wakandans. Why wouldn't they have given him?
I would hope
the most protective suit, and also like the Black Panther suit looks like cloth. It's just form fitting. It could just be like a stylistic choice that they gave Sam a more bulky. Maybe he is more comfortable in a more militant style suit. Who's to say? I have to assume it's vibranium. Also, because he's at a huge disadvantage going forward as Captain America, because he doesn't have the super soldier serum, and
he can take one bullet.
Yeah, one bullet, and he'd go down. So that I just wanted to mention that. Overall, the show wanted to take a stance on some social issues, And I think for the most part, it was successful in that. However, it really fumbled the handling in John Walker, and I'm pretty disappointed in that, especially because so many people weren't even seeing the problems with John Walker the way that the show wanted them to. So then by the end that he's now kind of like redeemed or whatever, it's just the point of that's gonna be lost even more. So I'm just bummed about that more than anything. As far as future theories, I don't really know. I mean, I'm wondering if we'll get like a Captain America movie, and it'll be Falcon or Sam Wilson as Captain America in Captain America 4. Who knows what they're gonna do, or maybe if they're gonna do a season 2 in this format. Reaction Light down there is saying that the movies are 10 times better, and I don't 100% disagree, but I personally really like having shows like this, especially these bigger budget ones, because I just like to spend time with these cool characters that I really love. And I think the weekly format, it's fun, man, to just talk about week to week, like what's going to happen next. Like it's really enjoyable. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do with him in the future. I assume he'll play a part in Armor Wars because they're going to have to bring some side characters in for Rhodey to play on. I just assume that's what's going to happen. Who knows what Bucky's going to be up to, because it seems like he's kicked out of Wakanda. So I don't think he'll be appearing in Black Panther 2. Or maybe he'll have some kind of redemption arc in that movie, and he'll be welcomed back in. Who knows anymore? And what are they going to do with Zemo? I mean, they got all these characters sitting around. What are they going to do with Abomination?
I think it's a thing where, I mean, going back a little bit, I thoroughly enjoyed kind of the social stuff that they touched on, but again, just overall, everything was messy because anything that they kind of built up, it got really almost erased or washed away because then a character went another way with their motivations and whatnot. But yeah, with things that are set up, Zemo, they're definitely going to have to keep him around because that character, people really responded to him. Plus, I think that he is in a spot that they could do a lot with him. Again, U.S. Agent and Val, who knows what the heck is going on there? Obviously, that sets something up. Same with Sharon as the power broker. That sets something up. But where and who and why and what, who really knows? Are these going to tie into more of the Disney Plus series? Are they going to tie in with the movies? I think, if anything, and you said it, Armor Wars feels like the most reasonable one that Sharon maybe somehow deals with them, and then
power broker going up. They're taking arms from the U.S. government. I mean, that seems reasonable. I don't know. I mean, I doubt any of this is going to have an effect on Shang-Chi.
No,
seems like a pretty remote, or even Doctor Strange and
or Loki,
or Thor, Love and Thunder that's coming out. I mean.
Eternals,
these are all those properties are very disconnected. I mean, Captain America's character is like the most grounded by far right now, because and Spider-Man is too upbeat and fun to get in with this thing, so I can't help but shake. They should have set the plot in some other city, so you couldn't just wonder like, hey, how come Peter Parker didn't swing by? There's like a lot of stuff going down, and he would always turn up to that. He did it in Infinity War, so should have put it in L.A. or I don't know. Tall buildings look cool. Miami has tons of skyscrapers. Put it in Miami.
I mean, that would have made sense because it's a port city then, and that would make sense. How we didn't fly, we took boats over. Again, timeline wise, some of that stuff wouldn't have added up, but I think that would have worked a lot better, or just something along those lines. I don't know. But everyone, that's our thoughts, full breakdown, spoilers, theories, and how we really felt about this first season. I don't know if we'll even get a season 2 of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but what did you all think? Did you like it? Did you hate it? What kind of things stood out to you? What theories do you have potentially? Were you surprised by the power broker? I'm sorry that it wasn't Justin Hammer. It should have been.
Justin Hammer.
But what are you going to do?
That's another character I want in Armor Wars is Justin Hammer.
He better show up.
He'd be great in it.
If he doesn't show up, then they're missing something. They're missing
and
something there.
Sam Rockwell would do it. He's great.
Oh yeah. Anyway,
Scoper 128 down there. I don't know when you joined the chat there, but you said, what was exactly the point of hinting at a redemption thing for Walker if they're going to throw it away and make him U.S. agent? You're actually right about that. Not only did they redeem him from being like a bad guy, then he fights with the heroes, and then they throw it away again that he's now like somewhat redeemed because now he's going to be a U.S. agent who, is a very in the gray character who is sometimes on the wrong or oftentimes on the wrong side. That's even further. They went back on it and then they went back on it again.
Mm-hmm.
Props to Wyatt Russell, by the way. Fantastic actor. Hopefully he'll get another shot at this character and they'll do better things with it. But we can wrap this up. Sorry to keep going.
They absolutely left the door open for a lot of things. And again, I think they are going to see what works, what didn't work, and where they can potentially add these characters in or tie things all together. Who really knows? But Mr. NPA, thank you so much for joining me. Do you got plugs? Do you have people? Where can people find your stuff? What do you do? Let them know.
I got at least one plug on every wall.
They're safe ones where after you unplug something, the little plastic goes out. You can't put forks in there.
Yeah. I kept trying to lick them.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
My plug would be I'm on Spotify. I'm a recording artist. It is NPA, as you see on the screen before you. So you can go and listen to my music. I have a song called Pass the Time and a song called Sleep Till Noon that is on there right now. And they're pretty cool. They're fun, upbeat type things. So you could do that. Or, I don't know. Most of what I do now is just help JBuck with his stuff. So go subscribe to him on TikTok at JBuck Studios, right? Is that the right tag?
Go do it, people.
Go do it.
Mm-hmm.
Go do it right now.
Do it. Do it. What are you waiting for? Nolan, thank you. Thank you, man. I appreciate you doing this. Honestly,
this is fun, man.
We might have to do this for Loki when it comes out if you're still a nocturnal owl vampire man like myself. This was good. But people, I will add his links down below. Again, follow all of my stuff. Thank you so much for watching. Again, let us know what you thought of this final episode 6 or just this season and series overall and potential future theories and whatnot. Obviously, like this video, subscribe to the JBuck Studios channel. Follow my TikTok. I'm doing some cool stuff over there because I'm going to jump over there and probably do 4 breakdown videos after this. But this has been a long talk, and we are out of here. Again, hit that like button. It really helps the channel. And subscribe if you like staring at both of our beautiful faces. Without further ado, we are out of here. Yeah, beauty filters. No filter, beauty filter. I don't know. You pick. You decide. Bye-bye, people.
See you, folks.